Spoiler warning! If you haven't watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2 yet, please click off this video. The hero's journey and evolving conflicts. What's there to say? No, we are not doing this again. Hi everyone. Yes, I'm making another video like this, so I'll just get to the point. A common trope I've begun to notice in the media is the first two phases of the common story template, the hero's journey, as well as evolving conflicts and alliances between characters. Now don't get me wrong, it's nothing bad at all because Joseph Campbell's framework is accepted and loved in the eyes of many media lovers. I say media and not specifically movies, since the hero's journey and switching conflicts are applied to different video games and stories, as well as movies, etc. The pieces like Valve's magnum opus, Portal 2, and Paramount's sequel to Sega's Blue Blur, Sonic the Hedgehog, are good examples of both, because even video games can have story elements that reflect the hero's journey as well as movies, but I'll get to that later, which is in the next paragraph of this script, so let's get into it. The ordinary world. The first moments of Portal 2 begin with the main character and our hero, Chell, after waking up in a relaxation chamber after
50 days.
The chamber, owned by the company Aperture Science, instructs Chell to do basic activities like walking around, looking at artwork, looking up and down, and then she heads to sleep. This is the ordinary world, to demonstrate what Chell's world was, where she was put into a cryogenic chamber to heal the mental and physical wounds she had after her fight with GLaDOS. The audience is already curious about how Chell got here, and how Chell has recovered from her wounds, so the audience is both intrigued and feels obligated to obey the voice telling them about their exercise and to go back to sleep. It also introduces the audience back into Portal by having the environments already seem reminiscent of Portal 1 with the white walls, and the blandness of it, the cleanliness, etc. But little does the audience know, that's going to change in almost an instant. Or in a matter of 9. Compared to not only Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but other media texts in general, the ordinary world in Portal 2 can easily be seen as short-lived. But there is an explanation for that. The ordinary world is supposed to introduce the audience to what the hero's life was before the entire adventure happens, or in this case, the world around them. The point is, the ordinary world is supposed to be temporary and short-lived compared to the rest of the story, and in Portal's case, the players want to play the actual game, rather than just be in this chamber longer than they need to be, and the developers obviously want their players to have an experience that doesn't immediately throw you into the action, but does demonstrate clearly enough what the ordinary world was. An example of this is in another game I can think of, which is Jedi Fallen Order. They both have the right amount of time dedicated to the introduction of the hero's world, and then throw us into the action without unnecessarily rushing the story for a player's first time. I digress though. If you play the campaign of Jedi Fallen Order more than once, the intro sequence might seem a bit too long, but as I said, it's perfect the first time. And with Portal, I'd argue this intro to the ordinary world is perfect, due to leaving the audience with unanswered questions and making it hit all that harder when things begin to change. Here's your final spoiler warning, because I don't want to spoil anyone here, but I really want to talk about this movie. The second Sonic the Hedgehog film can be a good demonstration of the hero's journey, since this movie is all about Sonic embracing the responsibility of a leader hero. It's revealed that it's been nearly a year after the first movie took place from Robotnik's dialogue, unless time works differently on World 1-3.
It's day 243 in this Portobello Purgatory.
To begin, the ordinary world is Sonic settling into Green Hills. He's socializing with some of the locals, and has grown in size since the last movie. He finally has a close to normal life, where he has a family and some friends. But if fans know Sonic, that's only half of it.
Blue Justice!
At night, he's constantly sneaking out of his home to be a Batman wannabe called Blue Justice. This intro sequence for Sonic is already showing how much he's grown from the first movie. Firstly, Sonic and Wade return greetings.
Morning, Wade! Morning, Sonic!
Demonstrating Sonic's social skills improving, meaning he's becoming more familiar with the people in Green Hills. Sonic fighting crime in Seattle reveals he's retained his love for heroism and believes his powers should be used for fighting crime. It also shows that he knows his way around to different cities, compared to how he didn't know where San Francisco was in the first film. And as said from before, he's getting taller. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find an image for that in editing, but just take my word for it. It's to drive home that he's grown, since it's both physical and mental. The point is, the audience can interpret that there have been changes and growth not only with Sonic, but also Robotnik. Sonic's ordinary world is shown to be kind of a double-edged sword, because while Sonic has been having his fun speeding around everywhere, with some freedom and not being alone anymore, he's grown to be more reckless and irresponsible with crime fighting. And he doesn't have any close friends or brothers, although the last one didn't really faze him, since he's just fine, I guess. It seems overall for Sonic, the audience can interpret that he's pretty satisfied with his life and likes it how it is. Of course I didn't talk about Eggman, but I'll be brief with him. World 1-3 has become his ordinary world, with him basically going crazy and obsessed with destroying Sonic. It's the audience's introduction to how obsessive he's becoming, and that's pretty much it. The call to adventure, where both our heroes become threatened and are offered or even forced into action. To Chel's awoken surprise, when she wakes up, it appears she was stuck in this cryogenic chamber for a very prolonged amount of time. A few seconds after waking up, it turns out that she was awoken by a robot core named Wheatley, who gives her the opportunity to escape Aperture Science. Why is this the call to adventure for Chel? Because both Chel's safety and life are threatened by the desolate environment of Aperture Science, meaning both the player and the character Chel have the motivation to escape Aperture Science, because they can interpret that no one is coming to save them, and they may not get another chance to escape. Well, the player can interpret the first part. Maybe not Chel, because she
might have a very minor case of serious brain damage.
Since Wheatley had the consideration to wake Chel up, and was giving her the instructions to help them both get out of the facility, the player thinks that Wheatley might be a good guy. This already gives us our hero's first alliance, where some people would think that since Chel had been stuck in Aperture Science for so long, she's grown too desperate to escape, so she doesn't really care about alliances anymore. All the player knows is that they can interpret that they need to follow Wheatley's instructions to press forward and progress the game, and that Wheatley is offering freedom, so they're intrigued. Sonic's call is slightly different. When Sonic's guardians leave for vacation, Tails enters the scene, and to find Sonic to warn him about the villain's arrival. Robotnik storms into Sonic's house, riling him up, and demonstrating the call of adventure. The return of Robotnik was of course expected by the audience, but the way he's presented in this shot is so intimidating, to give the audience a sense of something off about him. As mentioned before in the ordinary world of this film, he's gone absolutely crazy and obsessed with the little blue blur. So his tone has become unhinged with a mix of angry and calmness at the same time. This audience also picks up the feeling of him getting overly confident to taunt Sonic on his front porch, and clearly Sonic's oblivious to that fact, as he tries to fight off Eggman, but surprisingly gets beaten by this guy. The nucleus. That, however, would be Sonic refusing the call to adventure, which is another step entirely, but this is getting off topic. I confess that there is not that much to say about the call to adventure altogether, since it tends to happen almost immediately, but it's supposed to be an immediate threat or offer that is presented to the hero to either force them or just push them into their adventure. If it was extended, it would not be engaging for its audience, since the audience wants the story to progress, obviously, and no one likes an unnecessarily stretched story. But that's a good thing, that both of our calls to adventure are almost immediate, since it introduces us to either our main villain or our ally. In that sense, the two contradict one another. But someone or something has to be present in order to force or offer the hero's adventure, which is another common trope in this particular step. There has never been a call to adventure that hasn't used either a character or a force to be an actual call to adventure. Crossing the threshold. At this point, things begin to change when it comes to the hero's journey, where our hero is forced to step out of their ordinary world into an adventure. As Chel progresses through the facility following Wheatley's instructions, they run into a shut-down GLaDOS, who Chel killed in the predecessor game, Portal 1. GLaDOS gets woken up and picks Chel up. If the audience knows their Portal history beforehand, they notice GLaDOS picking up Chell means GLaDOS is not fooling around anymore. In the first game, she did nearly nothing to force Chell around, but the choice that GLaDOS picks up Chell instead of just talking to her means she has changed to be more intimidating and vengeful. Which another indicator of this is also her appearance, which shows her machinery underneath, meaning she's changed and is definitely in the mood to make her do tests. GLaDOS then drops her down a hole to help her begin testing again, so Chell is forced outside of her original path and is now on this other path to engage in the real adventure. When Knuckles is about to punch Sonic's lights out, Knuckles gets immediately backyard wrestled by the Ford. And Sonic gets saved by the best boy Tails. This means Sonic is technically meeting his new mentor, because Tails elaborates on why Knuckles is after Sonic, and later helps Sonic learn the lesson of taking responsibilities for others in the film. Sonic and Tails figure out how to find a relic Knuckles wants to find, and start their own adventure by going to Siberia, where Sonic is now forced into this adventure to stop Knuckles and Robotnik from retrieving this relic. Sonic thinks he is obligated to find this relic, the Master Emerald, before Knuckles does, because of the instructions his former mentor Longclaw had given him, and the fact that he knows that since Robotnik is back, he is up to do what he can to kill Sonic. So the fact that Robotnik is back, Knuckles is out for the Master Emerald, and that he's been given instructions by Longclaw to retrieve the Master Emerald before they do, have altogether formed the forces and or beings that convince Sonic to cross the threshold. Both of the media pieces have short moments of our hero crossing the threshold. It's short because it's due to one choice and immediate action. You cannot really time how long these actions are for Portal 2 and Sonic. Is it how long Chell is falling down the hole? Is it how long Sonic and Tails go through the ring? Which we don't even see on screen, by the way. But the point is, this step has proven to be short and significant in our narrative because crossing the threshold is how our narrative progresses further, so the audience and our heroes are into the main adventure. Forceful or not, crossing the threshold is the main indicator of our narrative progressing further. Joke time, brought to you by TNTeenager. Hey everyone. So, two whales are at a bar, then one goes, This was Joke Time, brought to you by TNTeenager, the unfunniest funny guy you'll ever know. Back to your regular scheduled program. As we move on to the next act of these two features, both the tasks and true adventures come to life in both stories. When you compare the two, Sonic's first phase may be considered short compared to Portal's, since Portal 2 has puzzles that people need to solve which could take a long time unless you're this guy. But the steps in Sonic 2 are more defined because it's easier to pinpoint the specific steps in the hero's journey. With Portal, I had such a challenge trying to pinpoint the hero's journey steps, I had to ask Adam to help me with it. No offense, Adam. Also, I'm not even addressing the fact that one is a video game, and another is a movie, loosely based on a video game. In my mind, they hold enough similarities and both hold the hero's journey, so it should be fine to compare the two. So now it's time to address some specific parts of the second phase of the hero's journey. I'll be covering the tests, allies, and enemies to demonstrate the new setting established and how our binary opposition is set in stone in our story. And I'll be talking about the Ordeal, where our hero is faced with an extreme event that shapes them, and where binary opposition and conflicts can gradually change. Tests, allies, and enemies. If you've played Portal, do I really need to explain the tests part to you? Because the new setting in our story is where our hero Chell is being tested by GLaDOS through a series of short puzzles, unless you're like me, where I struggled with this part for half an hour. Wheatley's role in this step is him trying to spy on them and find an opportunity for Chell to escape. As GLaDOS continuously mocks Chell, calling her a monster and her enemy for killing her in the first game, the audience from this and their prior knowledge of GLaDOS can already establish the binary opposition between GLaDOS, Chell, and Wheatley. People think Wheatley good, Chell is unchangeably good, and GLaDOS unchangeably bad. At this point, new players begin to predict how things could turn out for our duo. A prediction would be that they may stay in Aperture forever, or that the two will team up to beat GLaDOS. Which they'd be half right, but that's for later. Wheatley gives Chell an opportunity to escape the testing chambers with him, which she takes. Our conflicts have been established, and our allies and enemies have been established. Or have they? Sonic's second act truly becomes the most adventurous and immersive part of the whole film. No question. Actually, what am I saying? Sonic and Tails have become allies, obviously, and they confront the test of retrieving a compass to the Master Emerald, while it's also being hunted by Robotnik and Knuckles, who've obviously become their enemies. Again with the sense of binary opposition, where people can separate the hero from the villain, which gives the audience a sense to think for themselves when they think, these two are the good guys, this is the bad guy, and this guy is unestablished bad. Our conflicts are external and established because there is almost no conflict in these people that they keep up bottled internally, except for minor details that are vented out later. Our audience also becomes very attached to our allies and even one of our enemies. We get to hear Tails' backstory in the bar, and Knuckles is progressively, and even aggressively, beginning to see how much of a bad guy Robotnik is, and how much of an innocent individual Sonic is, due to Robotnik's lack of moral concern.
He chose helping the fox over pursuing the compass.
Of course he did. New friends, same pathetic weakness.
So our audience has good expectations for the story and how it'll play out, due to our knowledge about these characters evolving, internal conflicts evolving, and it's succeeding in keeping fans entertained and immersed. The Ordeal. Wheatley and Chell have made their approach and ordeal abundantly clear. They realize they need to get rid of GLaDOS to have a clear shot at escaping, so they prepare to fight her by destroying her neurotoxin supply and changing the turret supply line to only dispense defective turrets. This is the approach, where our hero and ally prepare for the huge event that happens after that will unceremoniously shape them both. Then Chell is caught by GLaDOS, which then is time for the ordeal. GLaDOS unsuccessfully tries to kill Chell with her neurotoxin and turrets, obviously.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Wheatley and Chell have their temporary reward by successfully deactivating GLaDOS and replacing her with Wheatley, but to most people's surprise, Wheatley becomes quickly corrupt with power, puts GLaDOS in a potato, and betrays Chell, sending her to the very bottom of the facility. When Sonic and Tails acquire the compass, they're quickly ambushed by Robotnik and Knuckles. Now first, I'd like to talk about this.
Tails, get back.
Yep, this clip, right here. The interaction that Sonic has with Tails when he tells him to get behind, it tells me that while Sonic has the reckless mindset to blindly jump first, think later, he's demonstrating to the audience and even Tails that he cares about Tails' safety. Unlike some people, it's quickly turned from Tails protecting Sonic to Sonic protecting Tails, which is what fans are used to more. So it's beginning to appeal to fans that Sonic and Tails are interacting like friends, if not brothers. Later in the fight, Knuckles corners Sonic, they exchange their origins amongst each other, which are the vented out details I mentioned earlier. Another thing that links to earlier is that Knuckles begins to slowly realize that they have a similar backstory. They both lost their parental figures, and now Knuckles is beginning to wonder if Sonic truly means any harm. That, however, is short-lived because Sonic tries to throw Tails the compass but is intercepted by Robotnik, which leads to him and Knuckles acquiring the compass. Before they depart, they shoot Tails with a rocket, knocking him out of the sky and knocking him out. This is Sonic now facing what he was told earlier about being responsible for others. While he can take care of himself, he now has suffered the consequences of being irresponsible about other people's lives. This part of the second phase is where most of our audience becomes truly immersed in this piece, because our ordeal could happen at any moment. And it seems in both of these pieces, the ordeal takes both the heroes and audience by surprise when they're in the middle of a plan. It differs in the fact that one is more prepared for the ordeal than the other, which is a good example of how the hero's journey isn't really keeping writers in a box, because writers can change circumstances while keeping to the hero's journey. And for people that chose to watch this and haven't watched Sonic 2, as much as I've spoiled for you, I will not spoil what comes after the events I've explained, because it's truly something special. And also, I'm not going to be discussing any more of the hero's journey, because this already took so much longer than it needed to be. So I'm going to do what I was supposed to do a while ago, have a breath before I have to do this all over again. I hit my microphone. It's not a bad thing at all that these films use the hero's journey, because these two media texts are still great in my eyes. It's still used for entertaining things. And even though it may seem like it's putting writers in a box, media still finds a way to incorporate it and make two texts seem completely different from one another. People would say that these are two different stories, but they both use the hero's journey. so that doesn't really need explaining. But to wrap it up, have a great day everyone, and I hope you all did enjoy this because I certainly did enjoy making it for all of you. Bye everyone, and stay safe.